The sun was setting over the small town of Willow Creek, casting a golden glow over the quaint streets and homes. It was a peaceful evening, with only the occasional chirping of crickets and rustling of leaves breaking the silence. But amidst the serenity, a sense of unease settled in the pit of Margaret's stomach. She stood in her kitchen, staring out the window as she washed the dinner dishes. Her husband, Tom, had left for the evening, claiming he had a late meeting at the office. Margaret knew better. She knew he was lying, just as she knew he was hiding something from her. The evidence was stacked high in her mind like dirty laundry. The whispered phone calls, the unexplained absences, the faint scent of perfume on his collar. As she rinsed the last plate, Margaret's gaze drifted to the small, unmarked package that had arrived earlier that day. It sat on the counter, its brown paper wrapping seeming to stare back at her like an unblinking eye. She had tried to ignore it, but her mind kept circling back to it, wondering what could be inside and who could have sent it. Margaret's hands stilled in the water as a shiver ran down her spine. She felt like she was drowning in the uncertainty, the not knowing what secrets Tom was keeping from her. And now, this mysterious package, like a ticking time bomb, waiting to unleash its secrets. She dried her hands on a towel, her eyes fixed on the package as if it might suddenly spring to life. The wrapping was rough and uncreased, without a single fingerprint or smudge. It was as if the sender had worn gloves, deliberately leaving no trace. Margaret's heart beat faster as she carefully unwound the string, the paper crackling softly as she exposed the box inside. It was small, about the size of a shoebox, and made of a dark, polished wood. The lid was adorned with a strange symbol, etched into the surface in a language she couldn't understand. As she lifted the lid, a faint hum, almost imperceptible, filled the air. The interior was lined with black velvet, and nestled in the center was a single, gleaming object, a silver key. It lay on a small, folded piece of paper, upon which a single sentence was typed. "For the door that must not be opened." Margaret's skin crawled as she picked up the key, its metal cold and smooth between her fingers. She felt a presence in the room, as if someone was standing just behind her, watching. The air seemed to vibrate with an electric tension, as if the very fabric of her reality was about to tear apart. Suddenly, the lights in the kitchen flickered, and the hum grew louder, more menacing. Margaret's gaze snapped to the window, where she could have sworn she saw Tom's face, his eyes black as coal, staring back at her. But when she blinked, the face was gone, leaving only the dark reflection of her own kitchen. The hum ceased, and the lights steadied. The silence that followed was oppressive, as if the shadows themselves were holding their breath. Margaret's hand trembled as she replaced the key and closed the box, the symbol on the lid seeming to pulse with a malevolent life of its own. Her mind was a whirlwind of questions, but one phrase echoed loudest in her mind: the door that must not be opened. She thought of Tom, of his secrets and lies. Was this connected to his mysterious absences, to the whispered phone calls? And what door was she supposed to unlock with this key? The questions swirled, each one more sinister than the last. Margaret's gaze fell upon the phone, and she knew she had to call Tom. She had to confront him, demand the truth. But as she reached for the receiver, it shrilled to life, making her jump. The voice on the other end was low, gravelly, and unfamiliar. "Mrs. Margaret," it said, "you shouldn't have opened the box." A chill ran down her spine as the voice continued. "You shouldn't have looked. Now you're part of this. You can't escape." The line went dead, and Margaret was left standing alone in her kitchen, the darkness closing in around her like a shroud. The symbol on the box lid seemed to sear itself into her mind, a constant reminder that she had unlocked more than just a door. She tried to shake off the feeling of unease, telling herself it was just a prank call, a sick joke from some twisted mind. But the words lingered, echoing through her mind like a cold breeze. As she replaced the receiver, her gaze fell upon the box, now back on the counter, its symbol seeming to leer at her. She felt an overwhelming urge to destroy it, to burn it and the key and the dark secrets they held. But her feet seemed rooted to the spot, as if some unseen force was holding her in place. The lights in the kitchen began to flicker again, this time in a slow, rhythmic pulse. The air grew colder, the shadows deepening into dark, velvet folds. Margaret's heart raced as she realized she was not alone. A presence had entered the room, its presence as palpable as the fear that gripped her. Suddenly, the lights died, plunging the kitchen into darkness. The silence was complete, as if the very house itself was holding its breath. Margaret's breath came in short gasps, her ears straining to pick up any sound. And then, a faint scratching noise began to emanate from the walls, a slow, deliberate rhythm that seemed to be counting down to some unknown moment. The sound grew louder, the scratching turning to scratching, the scratching to scuttling, and the scuttling to... Margaret's eyes adjusted slowly to the darkness, and she saw it. A figure, tall and imposing, standing just beyond the kitchen island. Its face was hidden behind a mask of shadows, its eyes glowing like embers in the dark. The scratching stopped. The figure did not move, did not speak. It simply stood, its presence a palpable, crushing weight that squeezed the air from Margaret's lungs. She tried to scream, but her voice was trapped in her throat, silenced by some unseen hand. The figure raised its own hand, and Margaret saw that it held the key, the silver glinting in the faint moonlight that filtered through the window. The figure's hand closed around the key, and Margaret felt a jolt of electricity run through her body. The air seemed to vibrate with an otherworldly energy, as if the very fabric of reality was about to tear apart. The figure began to move towards her, its pace slow and deliberate. Margaret's eyes were fixed on the key, her mind screaming with the implications of what was happening. The figure halted in front of her, its masked face inches from hers. With a deliberate slowness, it raised the key to Margaret's forehead, the metal cold against her skin. She felt a presence stirring within her, as if some ancient, long-dormant power was awakening. The figure's free hand grasped Margaret's chin, its grip like ice. The masked face leaned in, its hot, rank breath washing over her skin. The key began to glow, a soft blue light that grew in intensity until it was a blazing star in the darkness. Margaret's vision began to blur, her mind dissolving into madness as the figure whispered a single, chilling phrase in her ear. "The door is opening, Margaret, and you will be the first to pass through." The world around her dissolved, and Margaret was sucked into a vortex of darkness. The key's glow, the last thing she saw before everything went black. When Margaret's eyes flickered open, she found herself standing in a vast, labyrinthine corridor. The walls were made of cold, gray stone, and the air was heavy with the stench of decay. The only light came from flickering torches, casting eerie shadows on the walls. Margaret stumbled forward, her mind reeling from the horrors that lurked in the shadows. She had no memory of how she got there, only a sense of foreboding that drove her to move, to find a way out. As she walked, the corridor seemed to shift and twist, like a living, breathing entity. Doors appeared and disappeared, leading to unknown terrors and unspoken horrors. Margaret's heart raced, her breath coming in short gasps as she struggled to maintain her grip on sanity. She stumbled upon a door, old and rusted, with a symbol etched into its surface, the same symbol she'd seen on the box. The key, still clutched in her hand, seemed to vibrate with an otherworldly energy, urging her to unlock the door. With a shivering hand, Margaret inserted the key and turned it. The door creaked open, revealing a room filled with rows of cold, steel tables. Upon each table lay a figure, shrouded in darkness, their faces hidden behind masks of black silk. In the center of the room, a single figure stood upright, its mask removed. Tom's face stared back at her, his eyes black as coal, his skin deathly pale. A voice, not his own, spoke through his lips. "Welcome, Margaret. You've finally joined us. The door has been opened, and now there's no turning back."